Good afternoon. Today is February 25th, 2026, and this is the City of Prescott's Council Subcommittee on the General Plan. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Frederickson? Here. Mayor?
Here.
Councilman Grady?
Here.
All are present. Next item.
Discussion regarding charter amendment review criteria.
Oh, wrong one.
Number 3.
We're on the February 20, the council subcommittee on the general plan agenda. That's okay. No worries. I will go ahead and read that. We are, this item is for a presentation and discussion regarding consultant scope of work and draft project timeline. And good afternoon, Mayor, subcommittee members, Chelsea Walton, Community Development Director. Alex is not here. She had previously scheduled time off before this meeting was scheduled, so you get me today. But we are going on this item to go through in your packet, beginning on page 4. Staff put together the consultant scope of work based on the committee's conversation at the last meeting. And I hope y'all had a minute to read that and make sure that it satisfied all of the prior discussion. We did listen to the we went back and compared notes, and I think we captured everything. And this was sent out, but there's time to, we understand that the council had wanted to move this along. So we did go ahead and send it out. But with a proposal process, it's not like an RFP where you have to do an addenda and all of these formal processes. If there is something you feel we've missed, we can add it and reach back out to each of the firms that this was sent to. So I'd like to get consensus on this today.
Okay, I have a question just to
Yes.
clarify. We're planning on getting this on which ballot?
This, okay.
When is the general plan? When are we planning on getting it on the ballot?
Sure. If you turn to page 6 in the packet, we put together a draft timeline for you. Okay. So we went through an itemized, we kind of worked backwards from the ballot date. So looking at the July 20th, 2027 ballot, we have options for that ballot, and then we also have options for the November ballot. If you look at the arrows to the very right of the page, this is how we worked. We kind of worked up from the ballot
I don't
deadline.
think I got that page. What page are we talking?
Page 6 of the packet.
Double-sided.
Ah, yes.
Very tricky. Okay.
Wonderful. So beginning kind of in the middle, well, let's start from the top. So we took all of the deliverables on the left side and identified the what processes needed to happen, as well as citing state statute as far as the requirements for the 60-day review comment period, the meetings, et cetera, and we worked them into the ballot deadlines. So should the proposals come back under 50,000 to get to the July ballot next year, 2027, we will have a fairly tight timeline between when we can get the contract approved. We're thinking hopefully by May, later in May, and then working with onboarding the consultant toward the end of June, and then they can begin their outreach to the community and public agencies as required by statute between June and July. But if you notice the timeline within those dates, May 26th to June 22nd, that is not a lot of time for a consultant to do their work. But this is a draft. You know, the consultant is going to be able to inform us how quickly they can do. Per the scope, we ask them to put together a timeline based on what resources they have. So we expect to receive a refined timeline from them. So that is if the proposal is under 50,000. If proposals come back over 50,000, then it is a little bit of a tighter timeline just because that requires a council action, and we'd have to work with scheduling that in. I will note that when we were working on this timeline, I did go ahead and reach out to the clerk's office to ask for a hold on an April agenda just in case we need it, so that the agenda doesn't get closed and we miss an opportunity. And then on the far right is the November ballot timeframe. This provides, obviously, being later ballot, more time to work within. So we hope this was helpful just to give you a little bit of
Yes.
real dates in there.
It's thanks for putting this together. Patrick?
Yes, thank you. So the 60-day comment period has to start by August 3rd?
To make the July 20th deadline,
And so what has to be ready for that comment period to begin?
it's basically the final draft.
It's the final draft, like we did with the planning and zoning
That's right.
before. Okay.
Right. Well, in this review comment period, it goes out to other public agencies. It'll go out to state land. It'll go out to Prescott Valley. So it's more than just planning and zoning in the public. It goes out to other agencies as well.
Good point. So to get to that point, we have to start thinking about what level of public outreach and public participation during the spring to get those comments. Okay, thank you.
So the plan is November 2027, basically.
That would give the consultant and the public the most time to review.
Yeah, because we don't want to rush people and try to do it on the primary, I think.
Right. And that would give the committee too more breathing room as far as reviewing what the consultant might bring back. That would be more realistic.
But you never know. The consultant may say, hey, this looks great, make a few tweaks, because we're doing a lot of work, preliminary work here too.
Absolutely.
And we've got a draft that we're using.
Yes, ma'am.
So we got a good foundation. Mary?
When you sent this out, did you send it out to a known list of potentials or publish it in I don't know what kind of publishing governments use to get it out into the community? But which way did that go for you guys?
So we reached out to firms that have done other plans in the area. We reached out to 9 total separate firms that have a proven track record. So off the top of my head, I know we reached out to Matrix, who did the Chino Valley general plan. And then I know, we sent it out to firms that have done work in Arizona, that are familiar with our codes and our statutes, and that have a proven track record for general plans.
Great, thank you. You mentioned that the draft plan would go out to Prescott Valley. Anybody at Chino? Does Chino get a copy to look at?
I believe they do. Statutorily, and Elaine can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's within a certain area away from the municipality.
And
so we typically let them know. We don't send them hard copies, but we send their planning teams links to the draft plan on the website. Being good neighbors, we do that anyway. So county, Chino, Prescott Valley.
But there's nothing within feedback coming back from those other jurisdictions that we would have to be concerned about as far as the timeline goes?
We haven't received anything in the past, and that's the standard statutory process that we followed before. So we would have incorporated anything we learned from them. Usually it's a good time to just connect with those municipalities, and they can share what they're working on.
But if they drag their feet or just don't bother responding, we don't have to wait on
Correct.
them.
Right. Yeah, it's optional.
Okay, Patrick.
So when do you anticipate we will be done with our review? How does that factor in?
I would imagine by the end of April. So we're at the end of March. We're at the end of February right now. You only have one meeting in March because of the council spring break. So I would anticipate a total of 3 additional meetings. So including this one, 4 for you guys to
Okay.
do your review
Thanks.
of the existing document.
But we can assign homework.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a good point relative to
Over
the
the
level.
break. We love
Right.
it. Homework over our spring break.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fabulous. Overachiever. Okay.
Like the olden days.
Well, and this is a good opportunity to talk about the level of review. So we are hiring a consultant. So grammatical errors and things of that nature, maybe for your subcommittee review, focus on the content and the things that are really important for you to change or make sure they're correct, or whatever you all want to see. Focus on that, and maybe that'll help your review progress along smoothly.
Okay. Do you have any comments?
So we do have 2 public comment cards. If the mayor would like to move to that now.
Yes. Yes, please.
All right. Robert Shagog.
I understand that the council has already decided to hire an outside consultant. And I understand that you want a consultant to do a thorough job so that when it is presented to the public, there's less glitches in there. I am here because I am a strong advocate of the non-discrimination language. And any consultant that would take a hatching block to those non-discriminate languages would not make me happy. Okay? So I would hope that the committee would take that under advisement as they're hiring this person. In fact, that 9 people, 9 different consultants, I think that's a good start, and that we should be able to find the consultant that will do the best job.
Jim Helbling. Sorry, Jim.
I've heard worse. Hi, I'm Jim Helbling. It's been almost a year since I sat in the council chambers and felt the joy of hearing the council speak words of praise for the non-discrimination statement that we had just modified to compromise using civil discourse with some of the concerns that some of the council members had at that time. And so we changed some wording, and everybody was pleased with that, except for the mayor. The vote was 6-1 in favor of putting our statement, and it's still the same statement, essentially, that's in the plan right now. I was approved by a vote of 6-1. And still, I've had to come up here several times and defend the statement. So that's disappointing to me that we still have to talk about this. And I'm confused why, after you've heard so many Prescott residents come up here and speak to you about how they want to have that statement in the general plan. They've said it many different times. And people that have experienced discrimination themselves have come up here and told you that they've had to deal with that and how important it is to them that this statement be put in the plan. and yet we're still talking about it. So I did go back and watch that video from March 11th, the video of the city council meeting March 11th, and I heard those words of praise and relived the joy that I had at that moment when I heard people say that they really wanted to have that statement in the plan. After that time, objections were raised. So I put together a handout, and I have it with me today. If you guys would like to take it, I've made 3 copies where our committee answered objections that were made to continuing to have, having this statement in the plan. So what I'd like to do now is have you guys look that over in your own time, and then sometime within the next few weeks, I'd like to meet with you, and maybe Robert will be with me, I'm not sure, to discuss how we can move this forward. So hopefully we can do that. Thanks.
Thank you. I think this was more on item B, because it's in the first, item B is the first chapters, which include the introduction, which is the non-discrimination clause. So it's not really applicable to item A, but I guess we can just say we were kind of flowed into item B. You know, it's still on the agenda. So just wanted to make a note of that.
Thank you. Mayor.
So maybe we can just move on to item B then.
Sure. And just real quick, council
Excuse me,
members.
Mary.
Just before we get off of A, and this is just a question for legal, the elements that the state statute says we need to include once the population hits the 50,000 mark. And I've read the statute and I didn't see an answer to this question, which is, at what point are you required to address those additional elements, since at the time of 2025, and I'm assuming we're still going to be calling it the 2025 plan, since that's when we were supposed to have it on the ballot. But as to the point of 2025, we were not yet over the 50K. But looking 10 years down the road, everybody expects us to blow past 50,000. So sometime in that 10-year period, we will hit the 50,000. Do you have a thought as to whether or not the statute requires, okay, you've hit 50,000, now submit these extra elements? Or do you wait until the next 10-year spot, or the next time, if it's less than 10 years, you put out a new general plan? Then you can include it. Do we know?
So I would say that when it comes to at the time that you are enacting and the council is making a decision on the general plan and you're putting it to the voters, if you're not at that 50,000, then you don't have to have all of those requirements. That general plan would then be good for the 10 years. If the council decides that they would, once you hit that 50,000, if the census comes out and we've hit that mark, it would be appropriate then if the council wanted to, say it's at year 6 and you wanted to start that process at year 6, you could do that. If you wanted to postpone it until maybe year 8 in anticipation of that 10-year, but it would be that next general plan that you would be either amending, or essentially that you'd be amending this plan to then comply with the requirements that are in addition to.
So it would be at the next development of a draft general plan, whether or not the council decides to do it before the 10-year mark or wait until the 10-year mark.
Correct. Yeah. You, at this point, if we're under 50,000, we're creating a general plan, say that this is the 27, and then at 2030, we hit 50,000. If the council chooses to, they could then go in and create a new amendment to the general plan that we have now that then complies with that. I don't think that that would be a requirement that you have to do that prior to that 10-year mark.
Thank you.
Patrick?
Yeah, I would respectfully recommend that all of the elements that we have included in the June version, be considered, be retained. I don't think we should have an argument over that 50,000 population threshold. There were actually estimates submitted at the time of our debate on this topic that suggested we likely have already reached it. And with the population growth figures we even heard last night, depending on which numbers you buy, we'll be at 50,000 in a year or two. So, yeah, I just think that's playing games with the statute, because actually we have several sections that are in the general plan, probably beginning in 2015, that weren't required, and yet there wasn't any stir raised about those at that time.
Yeah, let me clarify that, because that was one of the questions that we debated over last year. And if you look at letter E, the general plan shall, it's very important, the word shall include for cities with a population of 50,000 persons or more, and may include for cities with a population of less than 50,000 persons, the following elements or any part or phase of the following elements. And then it goes on to list, a laundry list of things, just pretty much everything: beaches, parks, recreation element, protection of watersheds. So it's pretty comprehensive. So I think just under item E, that way it'll be more inclusive. And because you got to look, in 10 years, we're obviously, in fact, I've seen numbers that have put us at 53,000 already. So we can always bring up that number too. But I don't really think people are going to want us to be under the 50,000 from what I can tell.
No, I agree to the extent that in the current draft, we have addressed some of those may elements. I'm not advocating to pull them out. I'm just saying we are not obligated at this point to completely include everything within the 50 plus. But to the extent that we've already worked them into the plan,
Yeah.
I have no problem
And
with
we're
that.
definitely over that 50 anyway. We can point to that in case people, have a problem with it. But like I said, over 10 years, we're basically going to be over that, and we're already over it. So we want to have a plan that's forward-looking, comprehensive, and that's going to reflect our community and our community values. So thank you.
Great. And one thing I forgot to mention while we're still on this item is we did put the executive summary on the list of deliverables for the consultant. And I know that staff received direction at the last meeting to go ahead and start working on that, and we have. But an argument can be made that it would be best to do the executive summary at the end of the process so that anything that has changed is incorporated therein. So we are working on that. Right.
So do you want to, we'll start with Patrick in your comments, just, not the minutia, just some general things that you did with the introduction, what you thought about the introduction.
I'm sorry, on page 9 of 64, we have the vision and mission statement, and then on the following page, page 10 of 64, we have Prescott's values. So I'm sorry, I voted against the June version. So for other reasons, I didn't closely look at the introduction. I was looking more at the substance of what followed. I don't know where this Prescott values recommendation comes from. I don't know if it reflects staff input, city council input. I'm at a loss to explain how that got in there.
Sure. That is actually a carryover from the 2015 plan.
That was submitted at that time for the June version. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I didn't realize how much verbatim from the 2015 plan is in our 2025 plan.
There was good stuff.
And I don't think the public realized, some people were all up in arms about it. And it's like, it's been in there for 10 years and there was no conspiracy involved here with it. So I think that's something that we can kind of ally people's fears and be assured that this plan is consistent and we're, on a path forward with it, continuing.
Great. Patrick?
Since this is such a important part of the planning process, and I wouldn't delay the discussion for that, but it strikes me that sooner than later, since obviously council as a whole has adopted the mission statement as well as the vision statement, and that's candidly a part of our governance structure, might be worthwhile to think about taking that to the full city council beforehand, as opposed to having to deal with this, in May of next year or something. Just a thought.
Okay, and then what about the non-discrimination clause in the introduction?
Yes, Mayor, I'm supportive of the non-discrimination clause. I clearly recognize that there may be issues out in the community, but I believe a majority of the community has spoken through our earlier community process that this language is an important message as part of our general plan, and I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay, so as is. Okay, Mary, your turn.
Thank you. Going through, I'll speak about that last element since that's the thing that creates the most discussion. But just flipping through the introduction, otherwise, there's a couple of spots, and I don't know that you consider this, don't worry about that kind of stuff, but there is on page 15, talking about the general plan getting on the 2025 ballot,
Right.
which
Yeah,
clearly
those
didn't happen.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think there's one other spot where I saw that kind of thing where it was referenced that it was going to get done last year, and it did not. So I'm assuming that you guys are going to update that.
Yes, ma'am. And relative to page 15, the public participation process, we will also have new content to add once the consultant is on board and they do their outreach efforts in the summer. So that section will be added to and changed to get rid of what is no longer relevant.
Thank you. And I'm not finding the other spot that I noticed about that, but I'm sure you guys will catch it. As far as the anti-discrimination language, and I'll just say what I said when I was on the General Plan Review Committee, that I think it is inappropriate within this documentation. I think it creates division, as there is significant elements within our city that find this troublesome. And to me, it does not add anything other than, and I don't mean in a pejorative way, virtue signaling, but doesn't do anything beyond making a subset of our citizens feel, I'm not sure how, but feel better. I'm of an age and a sex that I very much remember a time growing up in my teenage and young adult life that women were definitely not afforded the same kind of privileges that men were within our society. So I'm not blind to the feeling of being pushed back because of innate characteristics. But I think these times are not those times, and including this kind of language that many people take as indicating that we've got a problem. And I understand individuals may feel that we do. There may be, and no doubt, and I've said this from the review committee that I was on earlier, obviously there are jerks in every collection of human beings. And I don't discount people who have come up to the podium and have made presentations saying, I was treated badly, I experienced negative things said to me or about me. I don't discount that at all. But that is different from indicating within this language, and that is how I read it, that Prescott has a problem. Prescott, the city, globally has a problem, and we need to address it by this language. I find that offensive because I don't believe the city or even globally the citizens have an issue that would require this kind of language to be put in there. And I think the first 1, 2, 3 sentence of that paragraph addresses the fact that the city welcomes all. It's an diversity, cultural diversity is an asset. It's what makes Prescott, part of what makes Prescott Prescott is that we have the wide variety. So I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I would support wholeheartedly the first 3 sentences of that paragraph. It is the language as such, and then it goes into the laundry list of immutable characteristics. Well, arguably immutable. It includes others. For example, religion obviously is not immutable. Genders, not immutable. So I think that is problematic. And I would strike everything from as such to the end of that paragraph. I just did a quick read of the handout that came to us. The problem with opposition number 3 and the response to it, shouldn't it be included so people can vote one way or the other? But the problem is we're not sending it on the ballot for people to vote on any particular element or sentence or language. It's up or down. So it's not a matter of people will vote for this language in particular. So I don't go for that. The number 2, I agree. I think it's scary to put that in because the Trump administration might hurt us in some way for federal funding. I agree with that. I think that's an overblown worry. Not to say that crazy things don't happen, but I don't see that as a concern. Nor do I think it's a problem that the statement doesn't belong in a land use document. There's plenty of things within this, within the draft and in earlier versions that are not strictly land use. So I don't see that as a reason particularly to kick it out. My position is it's not necessary. It doesn't do anything other than make a subset of our citizens feel welcomed when there's nothing that the city does that makes anybody feel unwelcome. And to the extent that people have gotten up to the podium and said, some jerk said something jerky to me, I have no doubt about that. But it's not the city, and it's not wholesale within the city. So I may be I have no idea how generally the council thinks about it, but that's my position. I think it's unnecessary. I think it creates division and gives people a hook to say, that's not Prescott. I don't want to sign off on anything that implies that that's Prescott. I'm not voting for it. So.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that all of us up here, we know discrimination is morally wrong, discrimination in any form. So if we are talking about this clause, it doesn't mean that we support discrimination if we are critical of this clause. And also, we have federal laws that prevent discrimination. It's illegal. We know that discrimination is not only morally wrong, but it is also illegal. And so if we have a problem and a discussion about the clause that was in our draft, we're talking about it from the general plan point of view. This is a land planning document. Is this going to cause it not to be passed by the public, even though you think it will be? You never know until it's on the ballot and actually voted on. So I just wanted to make that clarification. I have a couple of comments on the introduction, if you're done, Mary. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I'd like to make a comment on this. It's cartoonish for a government document. I think we need something more official looking.
Just related to the cover.
Just related to the cover, but everything in general in the plan, just all the bright colors, and it makes it hard to print out, and it's distracting. And I think for a government document, you just need to tone it down. I'm not against pictures, but it just, we have whole pages of pictures in here, and just make it a little more simpler. And then, of course, we have to update the acknowledgements and add even more names to it.
Right.
Definitely is taking a village here. And then the table of contents is pretty and like I said, another cartoonish. I don't know how, I've never seen so much orange in Prescott when I don't know. It's not so orangey to me. And then the introduction, what is a general plan? I'm real big on just using the state statute 9.9-461.05. General plans, authority, and scope. Include this document in the introduction and use this as kind of an outline. As we go through the chapters, start with, the land use element.
So reorganize based on.
Just reorganize it, and so that it follows what the statute is, because that's how it's organized.
Are you suggesting reorganizing the entire plan?
It doesn't take much, or just kind of move a few sections around, because I think there's a few sections that are kind of in the wrong place. But, look at the whole plan so that it follows, and use this as an outline. So it's consistent, and we know what elements are in there, because there's elements, since we didn't follow this, there's elements like the cost benefit analysis element, which is pretty important. I can't find it in our general plan. So just use this as kind of an outline, and then we'll have the executive statement at the end that'll kind of flesh it out as to what we're doing.
A couple of comments, if I may. So relative to page 8, we did take much of this language directly from the state statute, but we can rework that page to stick with really perhaps more citations as to how, and the flow. But the way the plan was originally organized was around 5 livability goals. And that is on page 12 of your packet. And so the statutory elements were organized into those kind of we kind of called it a backbone, like a backbone of larger things. And instead of a dry list of check boxes, we said, well, this element really belongs in this major backbone, this major livability section. So that's how the plan is organized now. And we can definitely easily incorporate citations from the Arizona Revised State Statutes that point people directly to where they find that in statute. And then, you know, if you also choose, we could have the consultant reorganize the entire document. But I will tell you now that the livability goals focus more on community aspects than just a list of check boxes. So, for instance, community quality has many of the elements that are the 50,000 section that aren't really required at this time. But those sections are also up in the fire section and in the I believe recreation doesn't have a lot of that
Yeah,
also.
you know, livability goals, you know, this is a land use planning document. And I think we can touch up upon those in the elements, but I don't think we should, I think we should be organized around the statute and not livability goals, but we can, you know, debate that later. But the introduction, you know, what is a general plan, what's required, you know, it's in the statutes. And then under the Prescott vision and the mission and the values, I agree with Patrick. I just said no on the values. Just get rid of that. Because, you know, we do have a mission statement and a vision in our strategic plan.
And those match.
Yeah. And this, I think we should change the Prescott vision and the Prescott mission to a statement of community goals. We can delete the mission, maybe keep the vision, but, you know, have it more in line with the 2015 and just state our goals. You know, we don't need to have a mission. You know, what does that mean? A mission in your general plan sounds like the, you know, Navy SEAL team or something on a mission. I don't know, or I don't know.
And that
It
is,
just-
that's a recapitulation of the council's strategic plan.
Yeah. And you know, just less foo-foo, touchy-feely, a little more formal. And
Mayor, would you?
Yes,
are you gonna
Patrick?
You wanted to continue with your comment. Just wanted to respond to a little bit of that.
oh, sure, yeah.
Thanks. So, yeah, I found that the livability goals and the way that was structured, I found that to be very helpful as a reader and as a former planner. Yeah, I just felt that the document really would be more readable to our citizenry, talking about that as opposed to talking about the statute. I like the idea of linking, in some additional language, linking what some of those elements are that are contained under those livability goals. But actually, I only heard positive comments about how the document was structured and laid out. I mean, economic competitiveness, that's part of our strategic plan. Great places and neighborhoods. I mean, we value our neighborhoods so significantly that just kind of throughout what we have been talking about as a city council. And again, I think it makes it more readable, not less readable.
More readable and more interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Maybe
I
more
got to be
people will
careful.
read it.
We don't make it sound like a term paper or something painful. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. And then under the general plan process, I wrote eliminate who cares. I mean, we could eliminate that, just eliminate page 10, 11, or just the phase 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's kind of redundant. And then under the public participation process, I think that would be important to include, but, could we do it in one paragraph so that people kind of get the idea that they participated? And then
May I comment on that?
yeah.
So, yeah, I think that it could be reduced, but I don't think to a paragraph. I think it's really important to emphasize in this document, albeit we're going to have additional citizen participation, and rightfully so. Nonetheless, I think that 2.5 years of work, we need to
2.5?
Yeah, of the General Plan Review Committee.
thought it was longer.
And so, yeah.
It only felt longer.
It fully, yeah, right. So I think that, I think there's some detail in here that could probably be reduced, but, overall, I think the citizenry needs to recognize the amount of time that's been put into it up until even this point.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of the Cliff Note version.
Find a happy medium.
Yeah. And then the next page is at 8. I think that this should, navigating the general plan. I don't like the map below. It's kind of weird. I don't know.
It's a homage to the Prescott High School students.
That's right.
They drew. This was an art project.
It was an art prop. Okay, so
It
let's
was.
make a note of that.
Yeah, there's a little.
Down
little-
below.
Yes.
There it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a caption.
Maybe
for the
put it at
picture.
the top or something so that we can notice that. And I want to thank them for doing that. I just didn't know where this came from, but it does look like something that would be in like one of those city maps that you see.
Yeah, the
with
fun.
the chamber and that kind of thing. And I like it, but I was just wondering
Why.
Yeah. So
Yeah, this
that's
was
good.
the map that was hanging in Old City Hall in the lobby for the longest time. So
Okay.
yeah.
So it is from, maybe put the year that it was
Sure.
generated, and kind of put it at the top so people understand what they're looking at. And then I think we need to have a conversation about the clickable thing. Like 5 years from now, are people still going to be able to click and find these links after we've changed our websites and
Sure.
software and stuff? Is that going to be kind of outdated? Should we not worry about having clickable stuff, or what do you guys think?
Well, I don't know about the clickable within the plan itself. I was concerned as I was flipping through this, there are several hyperlinks to city documents, and including outside, like Climas and SIMPO. Whether or not all of those hyperlinks are, in fact, workable. Even
They're
at this-
workable now, but yeah.
Yes, workable now. And as the mayor was saying, whether or not they're going to be workable 5 years from now, is SIMPO or White Plan going to advise us if they change their website for whatever element that we think we're clicking to? If it goes away and they just rename it, move it on their website, and now our link is broken, they're not, we can't say, well, it's not our fault. White Plan changed their website. It'll just reflect badly on us if somebody wants to go to the White Plan website. Oh, here, a hyperlink. That's great. And you click on it and it says no such thing. It will look badly on the city that you've
Yeah.
given us this hyperlink and it's dead duck.
Sure.
Maybe just go to the SIMPO website, because they're always going to have a website.
Sure.
Just kind of go to the general thing, and people can navigate on the website and maybe find other things that they might be interested in.
The main page, right?
Yeah, but to have something that might be outdated
Yeah.
and unworkable.
So two quick comments on that. So the links, the clickable navigation links will work within the document. So I don't know if you've ever been in a code or in a very long document online and the table of contents is clickable, very handy. So within the
agree,
document
yeah.
itself, we can maintain those internal links to navigate to certain pages. And then we'll work with the consultant on ways, if there might be something new or newer technology, to make sure that we don't have outdated links, because you're absolutely right. They will become outdated at some point, so.
No, I like the hyperlink within the document from the table of contents to the particular chapters. I know I would use that quite a bit for long documents. The clickability on the map, I have to agree, the map is, I would not include the map because it does look amateurish. And granted, it's high school art project, so I'm not slamming them. I'm just saying it looks amateurish to me, and having the clickables within the map also. But I do like the clickables from the table of contents to the.
I didn't realize we were getting into this level of detail in re-examining the general plan. I had a different impression. I focused a little bit on the descriptions in the various sections, but primarily focused on the goals and the strategies. I don't think we should play an editing role like this. This has been reviewed by staff and the General Plan Review Committee, and sorry, we'll be here for days.
Are you saying move it along, Patrick?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think we need to do this, and we can, we're not going to cover the whole plan in one meeting, but, we can just keep plugging away here. So we covered the clickables, and
I'm sorry, Chelsea, and I'm assuming that switching out SIMPO to Y-Plan.
Right.
Part of the deal.
Any businesses that have changed names, there's some other ones that we found as well. Those will be updated.
Okay, great.
And then, this complicated thing here about the general plan structure, I think it's really too wordy, and it explains the obvious, and I don't think we need a scavenger hunt in this thing.
I have to agree that also
Yeah.
seems kind of high schooly
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, so with the hat, fun bonus.
And depending on the consultant that we get, the plan could be completely reformatted. So,
Right.
So, yeah, we'll
Right.
keep that in mind as well.
And then when we get to the next page, the physical setting and history, this is it's right out of the 2015 plan.
Yes, ma'am.
The only thing I'd noticed was these objects and interpretation of the locations where they were found will also be available for public display at Charlotte Hall Museum. I've never, I guess they are still there, but we need to make sure that they're still there.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. What page are you on?
On page 11, under, it has a picture of Charlotte Hall Museum sign.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's down in the second to the last paragraph. They talk about things that are on public display at Charlotte Hall Museum.
Gotcha.
So we don't know if those things are there. We might not want to be too specific.
Right, it's kind of like
Yeah.
the hyperlinks to organizations outside of the city. We don't know whether that's going to be
Yeah.
continuing on or not. Same thing with Charlotte Hall.
Yeah, and then on page 13, on the last paragraph, it talks about our public and private post-secondary education, and it does a nice job, but it needs to be updated. It doesn't mention CTAC here in this section. And then it talks about Old Dominion University. Is that part of NAU?
No, it's separate. It's an online, I believe they have a satellite campus somewhere in town, but we can definitely double check that.
Or maybe just eliminate it because it's online. And, we can talk about Northern Arizona University has a presence, but maybe double check on Old Dominion because I personally never heard about it.
Yeah, they had a satellite at the Yavapai College campus, but we can double check that.
And like I said, in general, just fewer pictorials, and I think that would be helpful. And then on page 14, we need to update the population chart to 2025. Now that we've had 2025, we got 2025. Just and then on the XY axis, on the vertical X axis, I don't see anything there. It'd be nice to put some numbers over there because we don't have the numbers, but we have the dates.
Yeah, and we can put the 2025, the chart is incremental in the census, in the official census years, but we can definitely go with a 2025 number. It will be estimated because there isn't an official census until 2030, which is why we're skating by with the statutory requirement on the 50,000 element.
Right, so I think we could put that in, the 53,000 number that's out there. And then moving on to page 15, changing demographics. I'd change that. I'd make that just demographic trends, and I wouldn't put in aging population. I just put in population. and talk about, these are national trends. We're not the only ones with declining fertility rates, increased aging, and increased life expectancy, fewer families. And we're just following the national trend. It makes it sound like everyone else except Prescott is getting younger somehow.
Yeah, and that first chart there is U.S. population, right?
And then on page 16, it's really not in the statutes. Family types, household size, we talk about race, diversity, household income, regional population trends, City of Prescott population by age. None of that is listed that we have to put in to our general plan.
A lot of times, if I may, Madam Mayor, a lot of times these documents are used by developers, business owners, people investigating the community. What's Prescott all about? So this information has been in the previous general plan, and we simply updated it as kind of a one-stop shop for general information about the city of Prescott.
So this was in the 2015 plan?
I believe so. I don't have the 2015 plan in front of me right now, but we did not add a whole lot of, we just mainly updated.
I mean, this is pretty standard demographic fare in general plans.
Right.
Well, like I said, I want to follow the state statutes. And, but if you think it's important, we can talk about this with the consultant.
Sure.
And, maybe not go into such a huge detail, but it is important. It's a planning document, and if people, like you said, one-stop shopping, want to look up some information about our city, then, at least if they go someplace else, they might get some misinformation. Whereas you can kind of be reassured if it's in the general plan that it's probably not made up.
That's a very good point.
And then here's another example on page 21, this giant picture here. It's just, and then moving on to 22, resilience and sustainability.
Madam Mayor, if I may, we've covered a lot. I want to make sure that we have consensus. Are we done with the introduction?
Well, I think we're past the introduction.
Okay. Okay, no other comments on the latter pages of the introduction from the other members?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as the anti-discrimination clause, that's why we need the consultant. Maybe he has some information about that, what he thinks and doesn't think about it. And we just have to be careful that it's something that we can, we got to get the plan passed. We don't need something that someone's going to zero in on and just say, well, I don't like this, so I don't like the whole plan, kind of.
I think that is a good element that the consultant can bring to us.
Right.
Since they have experience in other jurisdictions around Arizona, how have other jurisdictions, if they've addressed it, maybe they've addressed it, maybe in this way, a different way, or not at all. It would be good to kind of get a survey of what else happens around Arizona. And I think that's a good element that the consultant can bring to us.
And so on page 22, we've got the resiliency and sustainability element. And I'm wondering if maybe Patrick might have some ideas that that might be it might be a flashpoint with some people, just the words. And change it to conservation and environmental planning, something most of the public is familiar with. It's been around for a long time. Just to change that title to, it'll still be resilient. We'll still be talking about sustainability and resiliency, but have it titled conservation and environmental planning, and then talk about, the drought and what we can do about it.
So you realize that the 2015 general plan theme was sustainability. I don't think
know.
we should shy away from the use of that word.
Yeah. That's just a suggestion. And so maybe we can think about that, because we want to make sure that we use language that the general population is comfortable with. What do you think?
Yeah, I think too, though, that the general population could be challenged as well at the same time. This terminology is used in nearly every general plan I've seen. And yeah, I think we use the word sustainable water resources. We use that word in so many different aspects of the planning process.
Yeah.
It's a generally accepted
Yeah.
terminology.
Oh, I agree. Let me break out here with this in today's paper. It says, where's Brody? There he is. I assume this was Brody went around. No, it's Street Talk by John Foley. The city of Prescott is working on a general plan for the future. What do you think Prescott should focus on in the next 10 years? So they've got 5 people off the street. So these are the voters. These are the people that are going to be voting on your general plan. Okay, couple number 1. Keeping the area red. Don't California my Arizona. So that's something they can do at the ballot box, but they've got it, something.
Remind them we're nonpartisan.
Yeah. Well, but these are just the voters, and this is what they think about the general plan. So they think the general plan should be used to keep the area red. Don't California my Arizona. And I've heard that many times. The second person says, make rent affordable and eliminating or aiding in the homeless situation. So I think that's a good comment. The third person says, teaching kids about Jesus and God and educating kids and keeping them safe. Okay, and then the next couple says, keeping recreational opportunities and trails for everyone and building more parking lots downtown. And then the last person says, preserving the open spaces we have and protecting wildlife. So this is just kind of a cross-section of our voters'
Yeah, quite diverse.
But it's just 5 random people off the street, that just happen to be, it looks like they were just downtown on the plaza. So I just found this very interesting as to I guess, the scope of it. And
And I think that is important for us to keep in mind, not so much because keeping the area Christian-based or Republican-based or conservative-based is really not the point of our body, the government. But nonetheless, we should keep in mind that that is the attitude that people are bringing when they are reading this general plan. We may want to argue them out of it, that, oh no, you shouldn't be looking at this document whether or not it supports Christian values or Republican values, because we're a city government, and that is not our position to take.
right.
But nonetheless, we do need to keep aware that those things that you've just read out are common attitudes that people are going to be bringing with them into their
Yeah.
reading of this document.
Yeah, and they may look at the general plan and say it's anti-Christian or something, or anti-Jesus, or whatever. You never know. You can only do so much, is what I'm trying to say. Patrick?
I have no response.
Okay, just some people off the street. Maybe we could make this a monthly question, and we can kind of get more input about this.
Let's keep in mind that we did a pretty significant level of public comment period and citizen input throughout the general plan review process, and the overwhelming majority of comments were positive about the plan. The items that those folks may wish to see that may not be here, that's not reflected in the surveys we've done.
Plus, they may all be, from out, the county. They may not be voters. They won't even be voting on the general plan. But because that wasn't one of the questions, do you live in the city limits and be voting on it? But anyway, no,
I'm not sure I even knew there was a general plan until a few years ago.
But no, I think the resiliency and sustainability element is, it's required, but it's called, we could maybe mention more conservation and environmental planning and put that in there so that people don't think that it's some big conspiracy theory. And then I was thinking about moving the Prescott Fire Department element. I haven't talked to Holger about this, but move it into the number 4 in the statutes under public safety services and facilities element. And more in the public services and safety and facilities element instead of under environment and conservation. I know they're involved in mitigation for fires, but it might be more comprehensive to have them in that other section.
Are you saying move it to another chapter?
Yeah, move it to
Because we're not
in
currently,
the public safety section.
is there a public safety section?
Yeah,
Well, there
number
is in the
number 4.
statute, but there's
Number
not.
4. But we do have a public safety section with
I believe
police.
that's under community quality, where police
Yeah, with the
falls toward
police.
the back of the plan.
Might be better for people to understand that, because they might get confused where you throw the fire department in, and then you have the police department in another section, and it's underneath, sustainability and resiliency.
For just, if I may make a comment on that, part of the livability goals allowed us to put sections that were pertinent to, you brought it up, Madam Mayor, relative to what the fire department does for the environment, for the natural environmental planning, as you say. So there would be opportunity to mention the services that they provide and the astuteness and care that they provide for that area in this section of the plan.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's a
then
good idea.
the other services that are more akin to what the police provide later on. So having them in both sections.
I think that's a good compromise.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great idea since fire in particular deals with the environment that we all live in.
Yeah.
Police, no.
Yeah, and mention the Firewise program in here, and then we have this big chart here. I think fire adapted communities. I was kind of confused because it's in the Prescott Fire Department section, but I think that should be in our sustainability, environmental, and conservation element. Because you go from the sustainability and resilience, and then you have the big section on the fire department, and then you're back to fire adapted communities. So should that be moved up so that it's right after we do the resiliency and sustainability, and then have the fire department in there?
We absolutely could move that
Facilities.
up. That currently is falling within the resiliency and sustainability
Yeah,
chapter.
I agree. Yeah.
But if you're wanting to take more of the fire department language and move it to where public safety is, you're saying that part would stay. The fire adapted communities would stay where it is.
Right. And then under sustainable funding, we should put something in there about Prop 478 and the 0.95% increase in our TPT. Maybe something a little more detailed about that. And then under resource viability, that really doesn't apply because we passed Prop 478. And so we've got the resources that are being allocated, and it talks about co-locating new fire and police structures. I think that's great, but they talk about expanding capacities, but we've already enacted that. Because it talks about the current resources allocated to the department are insufficient to effectively manage. Well, we passed the taxpayers took care of that.
And that would
So
be
we
an
do
element.
have the resources.
Yeah,
We
that
might want to.
Yeah, over the 2.5 or longer, as you put it, Mayor, year when this was written, there are other things that need to be updated, and that would be one of them.
And the workforce development, I think that's important, but I think it should be in a different section.
That is specific to the fire department. We have a
is?
workforce element later on in the plan that's
Okay.
more general, but that is, these enumerated items were taken directly from the fire department's strategic
Okay.
plan.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then we have our fire adaptive community framework. I think that's wonderful. And then we have the environmental planning next. And then another giant picture. So I'm on page 28.
28 of the plan, 36 of the packet.
Yeah.
We've got the
Yeah,
dual numbers.
Water quality goals and implementation. And I think this should be under the conservation element, E of the statute, E1.
Yeah, we can definitely notate the
Mm-hmm.
ARS statute.
Because it talks about green stormwater infrastructure, surface water.
I'll just say, I do like the structure under the livability goals that were developed while the draft was being put together. But I do think it would be a big addition, a good addition, if within the discussion, if there were particular elements, statutory elements, that are being addressed by, for example, this that we're just now talking about, that a footnote or a notation could be included referencing statute, blah, blah, required element, whatever the statutory language is.
Thank you. That's
So to link
yes.
it together.
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah. And let's see, what time is it? 4:15.
We've got 4 hours to go.
I know. You know, you can stay open till 8.
Tie that record.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and then we have our conservation element here. And I think that's very important. And it is, you know, it is in our state statutes.
Are you speaking to the water resources element?
Under E1, it says a conservation element for the conservation, development, and utilization of natural resources, including
Right.
forests, soils, rivers, and other waters. I think it's important that people know that this is in the state statute and that it's not, we're just, you know, this is important stuff and we're just not taking up space and trying to, you know, it's more than, you know, it's included, that's part of land planning.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
it's not fluff.
It's
I've
not.
heard
No.
people who want to
Yeah.
Very
attack
good
the
point.
plan. Oh, it's
Right.
just all full of fluffy California version stuff.
Yeah,
But
no.
that's why I think
it's
the notation.
right out of our state, Arizona state statutes, fisheries, wildlife, rivers, waters, forests, natural resources.
And indeed, you know, when you go through this and you notate any particular section as arising out of the statute, you may include the statute within the general plan and have those hyperlinks in case somebody wants to jump to the statute and read for themselves that the statute is requiring us to discuss things A, B, and C.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and we can quote to Mayor's
Yeah.
earlier point, the statute that has this particular element contained in it.
Yeah, that's why it's important, I think, to include the statute in the introduction and say, this is what the statute requires, and it's defendable, you know, when people criticize it. And we can say, hey, it's right here. So, and then our water resource element, I think that's wonderful. And our water service area, this is page 32. You know, just make sure that's under the water resource. I mean, this is all stuff that's right out of the, you know,
Your policy.
statutes. Yeah. And we do have a really extensive water resource element. I think city staff did a great job on this. And then we talk about, page 37, we talk about city codes and the water policy.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's very important, that we do include that. And I would like to include some of the elements that are in that water policy that we're only going to grow by annexation and only provide water and sewer within city limits and our water service area boundary. And that if we're going to grow by annexation, not just by running water out into the county. And it also include the fact that we're going to do IGAs with other governmental entities only. No more private parties. Intergovernmental agreements for water improvement districts. I think those are two really important elements that help manage our water. And then maybe include something about the water budget, how we have a water budget that we use under the water management.
We do have a hyperlink here to the water budget. Is that what I'm looking at?
The water policy is the hyperlink. That's to the actual document.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
But you'd like a link to the page where we have the budget?
Well, I didn't know
Well-
if this hyperlink went there or not. It does say, for more information on the water policy and to view current water budgets, visit this
Yeah.
hyperlink.
It'd be nice if it was the hyperlink to the actual policy. People can find it. I think they can already find it on our website. It's on there. Because that's important. And then we talk about the AMI. I think that's good. So this is a pretty, and we talk about the PFAs, PFOAs, PFOS. And then we talk about developing our long-term water management plan. I think this is very extensive and it's very important because
I did look at, speaking of, the highlighted language says it is recommended that the city begin the process to develop
Yeah,
a
good
long-term water.
catch.
Right.
we are
So
in
has
the
begun.
midst.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
by the time this goes to the voters, it may be phase 1 is completed. So we'll work with Water Resources on timing and verbiage.
So we passed beginning.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about
With
that.
respect to the Water Resources Long-Term Management Plan, so it appears to have just a few sentences, but in what we've been calling the skinny version, in the June version, it actually had a specific goal with 4 strategies and a much longer explanation about the long-range water management plan. And before we move forward on this particular section, I'd like to hear back from the Water Resources section to see how they feel about having a lot of that stricken from the earlier June version.
Well, we try to not have feelings, Mr. Grady.
So
No
what your
feelings.
opinions might be, not emotions, but opinions.
Sure.
And
Well,
factually, if it states what the Water Resources section once stated.
Sure. So let me put it this way. Staff put forward goals and objectives pursuant to what the 2015 plan had in there already. We updated goals and strategies and put that forward to the general plan committee and then to planning and zoning. So what was originally in there is what the staff had moved forward through those bodies. So
And so what I'm saying, someone that reduced that original version down to the skinny version, deleted what I think may be some important elements of our water resource management plan. I'm just asking for staff to take another look at it.
staff to take another look at to put it back in, or because the verbiage that we had included was verbiage we provided that we're comfortable with, but it's up to this body to decide whether they want it in.
I didn't know that staff did any review of the skinny version itself. All I thought was that came from council representatives.
It came from council, but if you're talking about bringing verbiage back in that we're already comfortable with, then we have no problem either way. Because the long-term water management plan also is going to have its own documentation. So whether it's in this document or found elsewhere, I do think we're covered. So if this
Thank
body,
you.
sure, if you'd like it in, we can put it back in. It's up to you.
No, I do like the fact that we have the hyperlink to the long-term plan, and that's still under, it's in the process,
It's in the
yes?
process, yeah.
Yeah, so all of those goals and strategies are incorporated within the long-term water management plan.
They will be.
They will be.
Yeah, they're not strictly stated right now on our Participate Prescott platform, but all of the process is going to be very transparent. And as it was brought up earlier, by the time this gets on the ballot, it may be very well done.
And indeed, I would imagine that any of the goals and strategies that had been originally developed by staff and put into the general plan, if they are, I don't mean this in a feelings kind of way, if they are worthy, they will be incorporated within the long-term water management plan, and the hyperlink will take people there.
Sure.
Okay, and then one thing I want to emphasize is the maps. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, but the maps in the plan are very small and ineligible, and even when you go online, it's hard to read. You have to blow them up, and you don't get a comprehensive picture. And so that's why I'd like to see in the back, exhibits or whatever you want to index, the maps to be full size, 8 by 12s like they are in the 2015. There's even fold out ones that are legible, detailed, and aren't just kind of cartoonish with arrows going in certain directions. The little, 3 by 2 inch maps that were down in the corner, we need to eliminate those. They're just hard to read, and it was something that just, for a land use planning document, you need to have a good map.
Absolutely.
You need to, and it's very detailed here, what maps you need to have. And we didn't even do that, like our circulation map. And so that's just something, do you agree with that?
I don't know that I agree to eliminate the thumbnails, but to expect anybody to get any information out of the thumbnails is ludicrous. But to have a thumbnail with a title, what it is, and a hyperlink to a bigger, more easily understood map somewhere else in the document in an index or an exhibit list at the end, the thumbnails themselves are useless as far as actually divining any information.
And
but
that-
as a way to hyperlink,
Right.
I think they could have a use that way.
And that was exactly the plan for us, had the plan moved forward for adoption. But the list of appendices where it's within the document as well, the full page maps, we can absolutely do that. Consensus on leaving the thumbnails just as, hey, this is the map that you're looking for a full-size, high-resolution version, go here. Is that workable?
Yeah, see exhibit, whatever, or page, whatever. Yeah, direct them to it so they don't look at this and go, oops, I can't read this, so forget it. Because that was what happened with our, the main map is the general land use and water use planning map, which was illegible. It was kind of a big blob. I think it was yellow or flesh tone or something. And it had been expanded 12 square miles, 12 sections to the west out the Williamson Valley corridor. And it was never discussed, never brought up. I just happened to see it because I was, the chair of the Water Issue Subcommittee, and we were talking about the long-term plan, water plan. And Leslie Grazier produced this map, and I looked at it and I went, this isn't right. And then I found out it had been changed somehow, and council wasn't aware of it. The committee wasn't aware of it. So we just can't have those things happen. That's why we need to have legible maps that everyone can read.
Yeah, that map did go through the last stages of the general plan committee and then P&Z. But yes, we're going to probably devote maybe a whole agenda item in future meetings to look at that map. That's the most important relative to the statute.
Yeah.
But if you'd like, Madam Mayor, we can bring forward the other maps to look at in conjunction.
That map originally didn't even have Williamson Valley Road labeled. And so when you present something like to the general plan committee, they're mostly people off the street. They don't know what the previous map looked like. They don't know what this map looks like because nothing is even labeled. And it just kind of, everyone just assumed that it had, and no one had mentioned any changes. There was not one discussion about this huge change. And, nobody asked the Williamson Valley corridor people if they wanted to be included in a future expansion of Prescott. And the answer was, heck no, we don't want it. But
I do think it would be good to have a specific agenda item for review of the maps, just to make sure everybody's on the same page and we're all good and there's no changes that people aren't aware of, as the mayor just referenced. So the bulk of the discussion will likely be on the general land use, but including all the maps that are included within the general plan, even if all we are doing is saying, oh yeah, that one looks okay, and that, a 10-second review, but nonetheless a global agenda item for let's look at the maps.
Sure.
Yeah.
Would you like to get through the text of the document first and do the maps on the end?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. And then my only other comment in the water management, water resource area, we really need to talk about the drought. We need to put in there, we're having a 30-year drought, and, this is part of, we need to be prepared. That's why we need to be resilient because of the drought. And just mention the drought and emphasize it like at the very beginning. These are drought conditions, and this is probably after 30 years, it's the new normal. The last time we had a drought like this only lasted 20 years, and it was in the year, started in 1290, back with the Anasazis.
Ah, good.
And that was the drought. Now this is called the mega drought because it's 30 years. It's surpassing that one. And it is obviously the new normal, and we just need to be prepared. And that's why we have it in this document so we can plan.
Madam Mayor, do you recommend having it at the very beginning where we're talking about the character of the community relative to resiliency and sustainability? We have a lot of introductory remarks relative to resilience within the community and being prepare, adapt, get stronger in response to internal.
We could mention it in both places.
Okay.
And then also in the water resource section.
Indeed, this is on page 22 of this draft, where it's talking about, it's the opening language for resiliency and sustainability. And it mentions the climate extreme, the increased impacts of climate extremes, reduced trends in annual precipitation. So it's in there, but maybe something more
Hashtag
specific
drought.
to
We
say
have to use the
drought.
D word, drought, because that kind of goes over your head. Reduced trends in annual precipitation. That doesn't say we've got a drought that's been going on for 30 years.
Yeah, so fleshing that out a little bit at that beginning paragraph.
Yeah, good point. Okay, moving on, we got the climate and energy element. I'd like to put, just use the word element in there, maybe on some of our titles, because that's how it is in the state statutes. Instead of saying chapters, it's an element. And I'd put in climate, climate, energy, and conservation. I'd put the word conservation in there. That's a word everyone loves. And then the next, under climate, we have that first paragraph, and then the importance of climate adaptation and the importance of climate adaptation planning. I think that's fine. Climate adaptation, is there a better word that maybe people might think is a little less lofty for them? Climate adaptation planning and conservation. Maybe throw in conservation on that one.
Maybe importance of adapting
Yes,
as
I
opposed
think,
to adaptation.
because I have a hard time even saying that. The importance of adapting to climate and planning. The importance of adapting and planning
to climate changes.
for climate changes.
Having it as a noun, adaptation, seems kind of academic as
It
opposed
is.
to a verb, adapting.
And that was one of the comments, it was a lot of PhD language, because this section was written by PhDs.
Right, right.
And you got to remember the people on the courthouse square here,
Oh,
the voters, these guys here.
I think of them daily.
Yeah, me too. That's who our bosses are, actually, when you think
Yep.
about it.
So the header, the importance of adapting
And planning for
And-
climate changes.
climate changes, we're okay with that?
Yeah.
Or climate trends, either way.
Just given my history with taking this forward trends, we're going to go with that.
Sure.
So I have a comment under that particular section. At one time, there were probably about 10 or 12, maybe even 13 bullet points. And so they were reduced significantly, and I'm fine with that. But I think that one of the goals, one of the impacts that wasn't transferred from the March version to this later version is what I'm going to pass to you now. It didn't speak to human impacts. It spoke more to, impacts of wildfires and impacts on ecology, et cetera, and impact on forests. So that's the language that I'm looking at, where it identifies that certain vulnerable populations in our community. We saw that in the Palisades fire, for example, but
So what do you mean by vulnerable populations? Because I need a,
okay, so I was
basic
trying
high
to shorten
school
it.
education.
Yeah, it's generally older people, or it's also people with underlying health conditions.
okay, let's say that then.
Okay.
Okay.
Good idea.
But there's nobody old here in Prescott. That's just a myth. Urban legend. Okay, so let's flesh that out in certain, how about some, let's see, how can we say that?
Well, you could just say certain populations and then have a parenthetical after that, elders,
Such as
such
elderly.
as elders, those with medical conditions.
And I can bring that back to the group.
And where were you proposing to insert this, Mr. Grady?
Under climate impacts, like a bullet point.
Make it the first bullet point.
Yeah. Because when you say vulnerable populations, I was thinking of wildlife, The pronghorns.
Yeah, there are populations.
Yeah, we have a pronghorn population.
Good points, I'll work on.
Yeah. And then we have energy, which is under conservation and energy. That's it's in the number 10 in our state statutes.
Mayor, before we move off of page 39, under climate, I will just put out a warning that for the people who want to find overly progressive language in the general plan as a
Yes, I know.
stick to
The
beat us
nation,
with,
the world order.
some of the climate's language that is inserted in here reads as if this is the city's position. And particularly, I'm looking at the last paragraph on page 39, where it says, to sustain even one of these critical elements, we must sustain them all. And that may have been Climus's conclusion, but the way it's laid out, it's as if the city is saying we must sustain them all. I would just,
What page is that?
this
Where
is
are you?
page
Yeah, I'm on
39,
39.
under climate.
So
this
you're the last paragraph, okay.
So I would just warn against letting Climus conclusions work their way into this section as if the city has determined that we're going to sustain all of the critical elements that Climus has identified.
Yeah, and it uses the word, our communities are embedded. That's kind of,
Right.
That's a
So,
little too,
yeah, I
you're
agree.
right, it's very academic.
Yeah,
So we can reword that.
And I know early on in the document, Chelsea, there's, and I think I brought this forward during the initial 2.5 years of committee, which is I was concerned that the hyperlinks to outside organizations, SIMPO and Climas, would read as if the city is incorporating them. And I know you had a notation early on in the document now that says, you know, you can click to find more information from outside groups. That is not to say that it's you know, the city's putting it forward. And that might be a good thing to include again on this page, since we are incorporating so much of the Climas language. Somewhere in here, maybe where you've got the hyperlink to the Climas documentation for information, for more information on Climas's recommendations or analysis, click here. Just as a way of highlighting, the city is not saying all these things. We're just saying, here's a group that's looked at these things, click here to find more about what they say.
Yeah, the hyperlink actually is to the Quad Cities Climate Collaborative, which actually no longer exists.
Okay.
Case in point.
That's an issue that we'll need to be looking at.
So if I may respond to Mary just real quickly. This is a city document. And I think that if there is language that you feel is not really inclusive of things that the city council is going to be comfortable with, that you should really analyze whether or not it should be in the plan.
No, I agree. I was trying to walk a center line because I think a lot of this language, for example, planning for climate adaptation has already begun in many places. Lots of other states, lots of other local governments have climate adaptation plans. And then Climas says blah, blah, and there's another link. So I would not have this, frankly, to the degree that it is.
It's already been cut by 50%. This is a smaller version of what was originally presented.
I agree, and frankly, that is. I know you had your involvement, Patrick, with that, and that's why I was trying to take a median.
No, I
approach.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yes,
But it's not a city document, it's like a third-party document. But I think it's important that we refer to it, you know.
oh,
that
I
it's-
agree, and I think if there
Yeah.
can be a hyperlink that
Yeah.
is still active, that would be a good thing, including for more information. Here, go here.
So is there verbiage on this page that we're removing, or we're just adding that for more information?
Yeah. You know, just, should we say something about, you know, this is the result of a study that was done? So people know that this was a study that we approved?
We could reference that again.
Yeah. That this was a study the city council voted on and approved, and this is the results that they found
Did
and their recommendations.
Okay. Did the city council vote on the Climas plan? Oh, okay.
They authorized us to move forward, yes.
The council voted to
We voted
go
on,
forward with
They
the
did not.
voted
bonus
on the
recommendations?
climate
They did not
profile.
vote on the, they
Yeah, we
just,
voted on the climate profile.
Moving
So we
forward
got
on the profile,
climate
they-
profile,
right,
but we didn't,
correct. Did not.
yeah.
Didn't endorse it, didn't approve it,
Yeah.
just accepted it when the presentation was made
Yeah.
to city council.
Mayor,
Right,
just
so I guess that's why I think it would be good to say here for more
Clarify that.
information, just to distinguish. We're accepting this in as something to consider. We're not saying we are acting on the recommendations put forward.
Yes?
just for this body's edification, I went and clicked on that link, and it is still active.
Oh, it is?
takes you, yeah, it takes you to a site that has the actual profile as well as the study session that it was discussed in for the city of Prescott. So
Great.
that hyperlink that's included, and it looks like it's the same hyperlink on both sides of the page. So maybe We don't need it in both places, but that is still valid, just so that
Okay,
you're aware.
thank you.
Thank you. Even I didn't know that.
That's why she's the attorney, and we're not.
So on goal 1,
Oh, you're on page 40?
Are we under energy now?
Energy goals and strategies?
yes.
Okay.
So that particular section had probably 5 goals and maybe 20 strategies. So I understand.
PhD paper.
Thank you. I understand the reduction. However, I felt that here were a couple of changes that would like to recommend. At the end of goal 1, looking at possible code changes, that was one of the ones that we thought would be important to embrace as well. And then going to go back and make the same argument. The mayor has heard this argument before and has been supportive in the past, that we want to encourage electric vehicle use to reduce vehicle emissions and promote Prescott as an EV tourist destination. That's not committing the city to buying EV vehicles. It's simply recognizing that we're in a competitive position with Sedona and with Flagstaff, who have significantly more charging stations than we do. And so we're just looking down below. You'll see the language that wasn't included in the first version that you're looking at now. But possible initiatives would include evaluation of Northern Arizona actions taken by like Sedona and Flagstaff to support accessible EV charging infrastructure, working with SIMPO to study a regional EV approach, and encourage a partnership funding model to support installation and management costs of EV charging stations. I think that's really important for us to do and undertake in order to be competitive. It doesn't commit the city to any particular financial obligation, but just like recommending energy conservation and recommending renewable energy, I think this is another goal that the group that I used to be involved with would strongly encourage.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, but I think we need to say this in a simpler, more everyday fashion. Like, for example, the tourism department has illustrated that we get bypassed by tourists. It hurts our tourism-based economy. We get bypassed because there's no places to charge their vehicles. So I think this is a good strategy, but you say EV tourist destination, we can kind of wordsmith this a little bit, kind of simplify it. And then the regional EV approach with SIMPO, I think, remember the state did a study and they're supposed to be putting in
They are.
EV, so we can maybe update
along
that.
major freeways.
Yeah, along major freeways, and so
One time they were looking at Route 69 too, coming into Prescott, but I'm not sure they still
I
have
think
the
they were
funding
going to
resources.
stay on the interstates. I think last I heard, but yeah, we can add this because we definitely need charging stations, and I think a lot of the hotels now, the newer hotels, it's a standard that the corporate is requiring now. From them.
I could get on board adding goal 1 and goal 2. I think the last paragraph, Patrick, you have on here, possible initiatives, is going to freak people out. I'm just saying.
I think that what this does if you look at other sections, because we'll see this later in chapter 2 as well, a lot of strategies were deleted in order to, in my opinion, erroneously to reduce the size. It takes away a lot of meat, I think, and a lot of substance. Nonetheless, I'm trying to compromise with those who would reduce it even further. And so instead of having 20 strategies, we have no strategies. All we do, which we have seen in other chapters, and I'm particularly thinking of areas in Chapter 2, particularly in the area of wildfire corridors. Instead of identifying 15 strategies, we're identifying 2 or 3, and we're putting it in verbiage as opposed to saying strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 8. So that's what, so we're trying to follow the structure that the shortened version was trying to do in order to minimize worded verbiage. So sorry, that was my quick response, but you had something more, I'm sure.
Let me just, I'll just, as long as we're on this page, under energy, the second paragraph, we're talking about, for example, businesses or governments hosting charging stations can earn up to $23,000 annually, depending on location. Do we know whether that's not?
Is that a fact?
Is that true? Has it gone away under current administrations? It just may be an element that is stale and no longer true.
Okay. Look into that.
Councilman Grady, do you have an extra sheet? Oh, okay.
Thanks, Mary.
And then
I'll look into that for example clause. I hear that concern.
And then on, we're still on page 40, energy goals and strategies. I think under energy, maybe not under goals and strategies, but we don't mention our partner APS. I think we should mention APS in there, make a statement about them. Because, it's important, your power company, I think should be included, unless they don't want to be included.
I can't imagine they wouldn't want to.
Yeah, but
Darla,
we have
I
a
think that might
franchise.
be an issue.
And so, maybe see if they want to put in a statement or something.
Do we have some information or some awareness that APS in fact has, I'm sure they do, elements, programs, initiatives that address energy issues? Since that's their business,
That's
I'm
what they
assuming
do.
they do.
Yeah.
But not down on the human level, down on the individual energy users level, if APS has something to share.
yeah, we could ask them for a short blurb.
Yeah, I think that would be wonderful to include
I
them.
would simply point out, and this will be seen as a criticism, it's not meant to be, but APS has chosen not to increase its commitment to renewable energy sources, despite significant community desire to do so. So yes, they do have energy conservation programs at the individual household level. I don't know how extensive it works or doesn't work in rural areas, but I remember working with some of their home energy audits. But yeah, I candidly don't know if they offer anything locally, but I'll check and see if they do.
Well, they have out there by the airport, they have a big solar field out there.
Well, I don't think we would want to include something that smacks APS with a stick because we don't feel they're doing enough on the renewable
Yeah, I
energy
just
field.
meant that they're an important partner, and since we're talking about energy, we should include them and what a partner they are, and I think they're doing a pretty good job as far as being reliable. I'm telling you.
Right, no, exactly. And maybe if
Mm-hmm.
APS has a section on their website for conservation
Mm-hmm.
elements that they are promoting, maybe we could do a little hyperlink to APS's,
Mm-hmm.
for more information from your energy provider APS, click here.
And they do buy a lot of the excess renewable energy from California, but like renewable energy like solar, it's not reliable. It's not 24/7. It's just only when the wind's blowing or the sun's shining. But anyway, just an idea.
That's another conversation.
Yeah, that is. Well, I think we should kind of wrap this up. It's almost 5 o'clock.
We have one more chapter, but we can add that to, we've got heads shaking. Yeah, so we can include
think
that
we
in the
did.
next meeting.
Yeah, we did, we're on page 42, so make a start there on a community connected.
Okay.
And that'll be our circulation and connectivity element, which is required.
Maybe we'll get a little more snappy with our comments and be able
Happy? Yeah.
to include this chapter too
Yeah.
in a next one.
With an additional 3.
But for the record, I would just like to read all the required elements that are in the state statute. Number 1, land use element, and then it lists all the details. Number 2, a circulation element. Okay, lists all the details. And then it has an open space element, a growth element, a public service and facilities element, a public building element showing locations of civic and community centers. We've never done that. A housing element, a conservation, rehabilitation, and redevelopment element. And then we have a safety element for the protection of the community from natural and artificial hazards. A bicycling element. That's right in here. A lot of people would probably not believe that Arizona has a bicycling element in the general plan for bikes, facilities, routes, bicycle parking. And then it requires an energy element and about conservation and efficient use of energy. And it talks about greater uses of renewable energy resources. Okay, it's in here. Yeah. There's no world plot against it. Okay? And then a neighborhood preservation and revitalization element. The water resource element. Let's see, that's 5. And then we're moving on to the last one. The land use element of a general plan of a city with a population of more than 1. Okay, well, that's just talks about 1 million, but anyway, forget that one, G. But
Chelsea?
it does talk about archery and shooting ranges too.
When she was reading that list and talking about neighborhood preservation or redevelopment, or revitalization perhaps, is that really a part of our Great Places, Great Neighborhoods section? Is it
Yeah, many
kind
of
of
those.
pulled out?
Many of those elements are within the chapter that, I don't know what number it is, but the land use planning section. I think it's chapter 3, maybe?
And then I left off a page 2, so let me continue on the elements. A recreation element, okay? And then we talked about the circulation element. And then environmental planning element. And then number 4, a cost of development element. This was not in the original plan, that identifies policies and strategies that the municipality will use to require development to pay its fair share toward the cost of additional public service needs generated by new development, with appropriate exceptions when in the public interest. This element shall include, and then it lists things.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah,
'cause
we
it
do
says right
have
there.
that. We do have it. It's in the economic competitiveness and prosperity chapter. But if you want to add additional verbiage to that section, we are more than happy to.
Well, it's kind of buried. You know what I mean? We just need to be we need to be more crystal clear
I
with
think-
our chapters, our elements, and, spell it out.
And I think your recommendation to call it an element and then have the statutory citation is
Right.
going to be very helpful for
Yes.
people to make that hyperlink.
They'll say,
Mary would say.
oh, dark skies? That can't be right. It's a plot against the world or something. But even the county adopted a dark sky element code, last year, very extensive. And I think that dark skies is very important. In fact, visitors, when they know you're a dark sky community, they realize that you value other things, like open space and recreation and quality of life.
Yeah.
And it's important for energy conservation. We're not lit up like Disneyland.
We were
every
working with the tourism department at one point, and they were looking at bringing in astronomy groups. And if you have that, and that's kind of a focal point, that does, there's a niche tourism group there.
Yeah.
I think widespread acceptance and enthusiasm for the idea of being dark sky I think is important, though, that we not only link it to the statutory language, but also to coach or develop the language in a way that doesn't scare people into thinking we're going down the HOA route and
Right.
demanding that, they change out their light fixtures outside their homes today, or we're going to send the police out after you. So I think how it is presented will go a long way.
Public
towards-
education and because, I really commend the people of Prescott. They love their community, and they do so many wonderful things voluntarily, like our water conservation program. They're really engaged with that. Our composting program, our farmers market. And these are quality of life issues that are nonpartisan. Everyone loves it. And I think that's what makes Prescott the special community that it is. But anyway, with any more comments, and we'll see you next year after our spring break.
So,
April.
So
But
we
we've
do
got
have
homework.
what's our assignment?
homework. So you do have one more meeting between, I think it's March 11th, if I'm not mistaken, where we can
Right around the
review-
corner.
Yes, ma'am. Where we can review chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5, or do you want to just go with 3? Because there's only, we'll start with 2, chapter 2, 3, and 4,
Okay.
and we'll go through those.
Because I think the more we discuss it and have some ideas so that we'll save money. If we do the work now,
Sure.
when we do have the consultant.
That'll be very helpful for the
Well,
consultant if
yeah.
you're completely aligned with the changes that you want to see, because then they'll just be able to rewatch these meetings for sure and get going on the editing.
Okay. All righty. Okay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.